Michelle and I had some real good jokes last session when they
Okay.
were when they were the bill, to make the drugs control dangerous substances, that like nobody's having like, like a
Abortion
mifepristone
party.
party and like handing these drugs
Let me
out.
have
Like
massive cramps and bleed out for 2 days. It's fun. Plan B is bad
yeah.
enough.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Yeah. Because when it happens to their kid, it's like a thing that happens very briefly and then they put it behind them. I mean, I love when I get up there and say, a reminder for the 10th time, 1 in 4 women have had an abortion, and I'm not one of them. So it's 1 in 4 in here, and it's 1 in 4 women in your life, and it touches everyone. And they're like, oh, no, I don't know what you're talking
Well,
about.
the bullshit of it too, with people in that building and people in privileged spaces in general is that, like, most of them, other than just like the most ideological, know that, like, if this is happening to me and my family, we have the money and the connections to get out of state.
Welcome to Seriously, the podcast that dives into the baffling,
We can't send them to a prison where there's animals, where there's livestock.
the ridiculous,
Like omelets better than sex.
and downright unbelievable political climate in red states like Louisiana.
So we can't go there. There's no vegan jail.
Seriously. Seriously.
Welcome to Seriously. We are your dynamic duo. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Ellie.
And this week we are super excited to have a good friend of ours and rock star at the legislature, Representative Mandie Landry. Mandie, welcome to the podcast.
Who wants to do their seriously moment first?
Yeah, Representative Landry, what was your seriously moment this week?
I give you two because I was thinking about it. And there's so many things that like have happened on the floor and other things that I'm like, I don't know if I want to talk about that. Like some things I'm like, we don't need to remind people.
Yesterday, 100%.
Yesterday, the news reported that with the big dumb bill, Louisiana could lose like $4 billion. And our
Wow.
budget's like $50 billion. All Medicaid, which, as you know, our state's sick and poor. And they're like,
Yes.
oh, if we lose it, we'll have to come back for a special. I'm like, what? Like, literally no one has mentioned this the entire time. I mean, and it's from Bill Cassidy. He's like, states have been greedy with Medicaid. Like, you
Oh
are
my
a
God.
doctor. But I did want to bring up this. It was seriously behind the scenes, and I won't say who, but when we were doing the 575, like, ex-boyfriend, sue you, Bill, I was, talking / arguing with a proponent. I'm like, why are you still doing this? Like, what's the deal? She's like, well, people keep finding loopholes. And I said, you almost get it. You like literally almost get what you're saying here, that of course they're going to keep finding loopholes. They always will. And it, like, she's a woman. It like didn't cross her mind what people were finding loopholes for. And
You
that
mean
was
because
just
people
like,
are always going to need to get abortions?
always
Yeah. Mhm.
always going to figure out a way. Cause
Yeah.
drumming up money to go to another state versus, 18 years, potential death, having a child. And they just don't see it that way. It's just like, oops.
Well, and I mean, people will find a way, even if it isn't safe, a conversation. Then this is a little while ago, but I had an interesting conversation about this with like an ER doctor and an OB, actually, that like the way they feel about it is basically, thank God people can get pills like online, because like then they're not seeing people show up in the emergency room from coat hangers and self-inducing like in that kind of a way. So I mean, the reality is, yes, is that like while all of those fucking assholes on the other side are so pissed off about like, well, people somehow are finding a way to get an abortion even though it's illegal. Yeah, they are.
It's
and
like
this is like wildly
something.
safe. This is a wildly safe way, despite all of their like completely false rhetoric. So yeah, if you want to make it harder and harder and harder, maybe that's what people will be telling me that they're seeing again in the ER like they used to, 40 years ago.
They're treating it like party drug, like fun, like you go to the club and get an abortion. And then also, the murder, you're involved in this heinous crime, when it's not that at all, but that's the only way they can justify it in their minds. And when the women do it, Really?
Michelle and I had some real good jokes last session when they
Okay.
were when they were the bill, to make the drugs control dangerous substances, that like nobody's having like like a mifepristone
party.
party and like handing these drugs
Then
out.
you have massive cramps and bleed out for 2 days. It's fun. Plan B is bad enough.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so ridiculous, but that's 100% what they think, or at least that's how they talk about it. Ugh, so stupid.
Yeah. Well, it's not real, because when it happens to their kid, it's like a thing that happens very briefly and then they put it behind them. I mean, I love when I get up there and say, a reminder for the 10th time, 1 in 4 women have had an abortion, and I'm not one of them. So it's 1 in 4 in here, and it's 1 in 4 women in your life, and it touches everyone. And they're like, oh, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
And the bullshit of it too with people in that building and people in privileged spaces in general is that most of them, other than just like the most ideological, know that if this is happening to me and my family, we have the money and the connections to get out of state. And I think that's actually why, we talked a fair amount, of course, about rape and incest exceptions, and why even among like, again, conservatives, but not just diehard ideologues, then, I think some part of their brain, particularly a lot of those men, are like, well, I mean, truth is, if it was my wife or my daughter, we would be flying to New York.
I have a point I might have told y'all that some listeners won't like, but this happened, that some of my Black Caucus members, 2 of them were talking to a former white male member about it. And he literally said, if my daughter was raped by a Black man, I would get her an abortion. And like, they told me this, and I was like, did you freak out? And the one I'm close friends with, he's like, I just appreciate he's being honest about it. And I just can't believe someone said that out loud. I'm like standing there like, I can't believe I work with this person. The guys were like happy he was honest. It was weird.
You gotta meet people where they are. You gotta not just meet people where they are. You're still a fucking racist, but at least you'll admit reality in terms of that you would get your daughter care if she needed it, at least in this racist scenario.
Credit, but not if she's 10 or 11 or 12, apparently.
Jesus
Christ. 10-year-old, right?
That's right.
Wow. All right. I'm going to go next. Okay. So Senator Slotkin was questioning the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, and she was asking him about whether or not he had given orders for the Marines that have been deployed and the National Guard that have been deployed to use lethal force against the protesters, I guess in LA or wherever, I guess they're going to deploy them next. Right. She was saying this was a concern of hers because the former Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, had written in his book that Trump had suggested like shooting protesters in the legs.
Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh, my God.
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Like that guy from Texas, James Talafaro, who quotes scripture back to them. Like, awesome.
Also, I mean, first of all, Pete Hegseth is not a fucking Bible reader.
Evil.
I believe that 0. He is like just like a piece of shit, philandering, womanizing punk. He is not reading the Bible. And if he were, then I mean, even for people who are big Bible believers, the Bible is internally inconsistent. I mean, the people who think that everything in the Bible is true are batshit crazy and or have not read the Bible. But he's like, yeah, Mark Esper, the former, head of the Joint Chiefs or whatever the fuck he was, very well respected, very high level. His book is probably full of a bunch of bullshit, but the Bible is probably true, full of all true facts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of truth in the Bible.
Did he answer the question about?
Of course not.
Whether he had? Yeah.
Why do they bother? I mean, Hegseth looks like such a true modern psychopath. Like, he's good looking. Like, I would date that guy if he was not a psychopath.
A lot of people
dated a lot of people. Not smart.
He is good looking.
Not smart. Nazi tattoos.
Yeah. He's a real piece of work. But
He's probably fun and a crazy.
I bet he's fun. No, I agree with all of that. Yeah. He's fun until the raping starts. But yeah.
I wish I had wine like y'all. Or some water.
Well, I mean, we can take a break for you to get wine because that's a big mistake. Okay, well, my seriously moment. So two different things. One that's sort of more sad, but is the Scrimeti decision coming out, the Supreme Court decision on gender affirming care, which, I mean, wasn't a surprise. I know it wasn't a surprise to people who are very involved in, transgender and LGBTQ rights, but it also wasn't a surprise, obviously, to like any of us on the progressive side. But it's just upsetting. And when I was listening yesterday and today to the coverage, it just like really takes me back to like June of 2022 when we're waiting every day for like a decision to come out that's like basically everybody knows is going to be bad, but like how bad will it be? Just the dread of that. And then, it coming out and being like, okay, well, we're left to the states. We've got nothing. I think it could have been worse. It could have been broader. So that's always the silver lining with these kind of fucking assholes. Like the holding was basically that the law did not discriminate on the basis of sex, that it isn't just discriminating on the basis of gender. I mean, it wasn't a surprise, but there was a really strong argument that it should have been given heightened scrutiny. But yeah, so that was sort of the punt, so that then they could like easily be like, it's only subject to rational basis. This is all fine and good, yada, yada. So I think there's probably a lot of families that are really worried right now. So that's seriously.
I wasn't surprised.
I wasn't either.
I
wasn't either. I don't think there was like unanimity of agreement about whether this was the time to bring this up. So I'm sure there's just a lot of pain that's happening, with this court is not surprising, but it still is like seriously, we're not even gonna, protect some of our most vulnerable youth. But on a lighter note, which is not, in reality would not be, but I did like literally laugh out loud in my car. This goes just like a few minutes ago. Just heard that Blake Miguez has announced that he is running for Senator Cassidy.
You see the video?
That's a big seriously.
No, tell me.
Oh my God, I think we need to stop or maybe play the video. It's only a minute or two. I'm not going to ruin it.
This is his announcement.
It's like parody almost, but it's real.
I voted to convict President Trump.
I'm Blake Miguez, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate because Bill Cassidy sucks. I'm a 7th-generation Louisianan and a world champion sharpshooter. If only politicians like Bill Cassidy can't shoot straight, but I can. Ultra-processed foods are slowly poisoning our children. Far-left Marxists are attacking and destroying American culture. President Trump is already saving America, but he needs our help. President Trump needs a Senate to support him full time. No more part-time election season Republicans. We're done with DC phonies. Down here, loyalty matters. We don't flinch, and we sure don't forget. I grew up in a working-class family, worked our way up. Like so many Louisianans, I fought through hurricanes, hard times, and government incompetence. Politicians didn't pick us back up. Faith, family, and hard work did. We're done being fooled by weak Republicans.
I voted to convict President Trump.
Bill Cassidy had his shot. He missed. I won't.
Blake Miguez is a horrible person, and I won't make you say bad things about him, Andy, because he is your colleague, but he was a horrible person in the House. He's a horrible person in the state Senate. I mean, sometimes with these people, I'm kind of like, let's send them to Washington. Like, let's get rid of them. He's doing a lot of harm here. So
you're not wrong.
You'll have no power there.
Like when there was rumors the governor might go be the AG, no one was mad about it. Literally, no one was mad about
that's
it.
Right.
Like,
no one. Yeah, that's right.
Great for Louisiana.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very hopeful, of course, that we can get somebody in Cassidy's seat that is not as conservative as Blake Miguez. I don't really think that. I think he's too extreme. Cassidy doesn't really have a constituency at this point, so he's going to be in trouble. He also voted to impeach Trump. Doesn't really have a constituency. Yeah.
That's why the far right wants to get rid of him. And I'm like, no matter how crazy you get, you're not coming back from that. It's too late, buddy.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay. I know it. Shut up.
100% he's not shooting those.
Did you say tacky? Did he call people tacky? This video? Oh my God.
This is insane.
Oh my God.
Lie. Best part.
Unbelievable.
He is like the biggest fucking gun person in that body. Like, I don't know. Has he brought any legislation on anything other than trying to make sure that everyone can have a goddamn gun, including like people at parades and all that shit?
They gave him MAHA this year. He must have made a deal with someone so he would have like one thing to talk about. This came out like Monday or Tuesday, right after a liberal lady legislator was fucking killed in her home. He brings this out and is basically like, I'm going to kill the senator because he voted to convict him.
Well, that makes sense then why the first paint of can was food, artificial food dyes or whatever.
They made a deal on that because he doesn't do shit. Like, he doesn't care about children.
No, I mean, I know that's just this whole MAHA ridiculousness, but I mean, he really did kind of take away from his hard ass message with like the first paint can that he fake shot being about dyes in food. That was worth watching. When it switches to like him as a kid and like him in a hurricane and the music shifts, like a real political consultant or halfway normal person was like, hi, let's like just do like this. Hello. And he was like, no, on the front end though, we're going to put where I shoot a bunch of weird paint cans. And I look like I'm like
prisoners. Yeah. From everything I've heard, he grew up quite wealthy. And is quite wealthy, but you know, I haven't seen his finances and yeah.
Well, there's a million things to dislike about him, regardless of how he grew up. So something went wrong.
I want to jump in to talk about how this session was, Rep. Landry, for you as a real champion for, you know, progressives and for people in New Orleans. Excuse me. It seemed like a pretty difficult session in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I'm always interested to sort of like Michelle saying like what your experience is like there being one of a very few people who could in any way call themselves progressive and for sure in the minority, but also the arc over time, what you've seen, what you think is changing or not changing.
Well, first is something interesting that some of us like to talk about is I just don't use progressive anymore. It's like a bad word.
Well, we picked that after liberal. Liberal was
I say liberal now, or like lefty, or just Democrat, even though I've got my problems with them.
They always
mess up all our words.
That's right. Yes.
They take our words like choice. I'm gonna kill whoever thought to do that. My body, my choice. Yeah, vaccines or school choice. That is not school choice. That is tax step. Anyway, the stuff like Democrats in general are pushing is now basic stuff. I mean, I still do my little, throw my little bills out, but they're more like economic. Like I had tax bills, I had a education bill, like stuff that is, the subject is not really controversial, even though I know it's not going to happen. Like there's people, such their stupid left-hand comments like, oh, you figured out how to pick your battles. I'm like, no, I figured out how to pass things in this climate, which is only something that can pass unanimously, literally. And I have to pass at least a bill a year. So it's like, all right, I got to think of things that everyone agrees on that also isn't just some like BS small thing.
That kind of reaction, I mean, that doesn't surprise me, but like, I mean, and also the people on the right are doing the same shit, but like where, there's a balance, of course. Well, not some, I mean, some of their shit is bat shit. I mean, like,
it's gonna pass.
Yeah, the point being that like that has to be a difficult balance, but when you're constantly striking between like I need to have a real impact here, and there are things that my constituents need and the state needs. So like what are those things that I can build consensus on? And then also, of course, not losing sight of that there's still things like messaging bills, stuff that is just important to you and you want people to know that.
That's important. You have to educate them. I mean, y'all know from back in the day, like how many years did Mike Johnson and others introduce stuff until it was normalized? And just like to remind people, and like when they talk about Gator or, the ballot initiative a few years ago, why don't we have that? I'm like, well, I was the last person to try. And let me tell you exactly what happened. So now you know what happened. So now we know the response.
Yeah.
So that stuff's changed. But I do think there were like things last term that I got help on from the speaker. I knew the governor would probably sign. They weren't so crazy like medical marijuana bill would never fucking pass now, even though I almost got it through the Senate last year and it got wrapped up in the THC wars.
It's not as much of a messaging year, obviously, when it's a fiscal session anyway.
You don't have messaging.
Yeah.
The messaging is like, don't cut unemployment benefits, don't cut SNAP, pay
Right.
teachers, like basic shit is the message. I do think, though, that we regularly respond to the bills, and Matt did so awesome as caucus chair. I don't know what we're going to do if he leaves. He took the job seriously. He was ready for the bills. He started the questioning. Because with a lot of Democrats, like, we'll follow up, but somebody has to start and figure out what's going on, especially days that we do, 100 bills. And that's
He
important
really has
to the
been
process.
an incredible leader of the caucus.
We
I
have
agree
to
with
push
that.
back against every bill. We have to show that there is an opposition, make the newspaper, let our constituents know.
Matt he's younger. I think he's very effective in doing what you're saying, that like he's always very prepared. His questions are on point, but also, sometimes get at the absurdity of stuff. I think he's been a really effective. I don't know what, behind the scenes, how it feels different, but certainly
he prepares. We depend on him. He makes sure the advocates know you need to give us information, and they know when they go to him, it'll get distributed. And so this is good for listeners to know that even if we might be on the losing side, you got to have your team prepared because they're prepared. And actually, if they're not prepared, it doesn't matter. It's going to pass. And so sometimes the night before 30, he'll text me like, can you look at 1, 2, 3? And sometimes I will be like, oh shit, I did not know that was coming up tomorrow. I haven't even looked at it.
Right.
All that is really important. And unfortunately, we generally depend on 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 members. And some people need to speak up more. But when you are in such a small minority, and you just have people who aren't going to talk as much, there's a lot of pressure put on.
I think, it's probably good for listeners to know too. I mean, most of the people who are listening to our podcast, I think, are like deep in politics and whatnot.
For sure.
But you guys, there are bills, there's a ton of them. They're coming up fast. You need sort of reliable people to go to on all different issues, right? I remember when Michelle and I were building that apparatus, to be the people that people are reaching out to. So sometimes when there's like a void, you don't even realize that it's there. So another thing,
you can always ask one of us, like sometimes I'll give from a lobbyist or an advocate, like, hey, ask this on a bill, like it's up, or can you do this? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to push you to someone because either I'm tired and don't want to do it, or like I might not be the best person. I mean, I work with y'all in the Senate trying to figure out which person will actually listen, and the list decreases by the day, but can't hurt to try.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to find the best messenger is always, it's hopeful. Then there's also credibility building, that like if it's somebody who you know well and trust on an issue and they're sending you a text like, ask this or this is a problem, then you're going to be more likely to just like do it, even though you haven't yourself, you didn't have time to research it, right? But like if it's not someone who you have that kind of relationship, I mean, I would be the exact same way. Like I don't really, this might not be right. So
the lobbyists I listen to sometimes, because they're all secretly liberal, literally all of them. And so sometimes people just text me. Sometimes they're like, "What an idiot," or "That's so messed up," or like, "Ask this." But for people working there, it's also good to know like who I trust. Like, if you text me something, I know it is true and I can ask it.
So another thing along these lines of that, obviously, I know you better than I know, on a personal level, than I know any of the other legislators. I think that, again, you are one of the most liberal, progressive, whatever, one of the most democratic members there. But you also have at least like sort of friendships and working relationships with people on the other side of the aisle that I think would be surprising to most people. It's not surprising to me. I think a lot of it comes from being a lawyer. And there are a lot of lawyers there.
I was about to say that.
Right? Yeah. That like we're used to at least having a collegial, a professional relationship for sure. I mean, I used to work in the North. Northern lawyers are like, why are you guys so nice to each other with the lawyers on the other side? But like we generally are. So yes, I don't know if you've thought about that. Obviously, I think you have a little bit, but I think it helps being a lawyer and understanding how to not be an asshole with each other interpersonally or at least be collegial and polite, even if like we don't disagree, or even if we don't agree. That builds some,
Yeah. Just
professionalism.
speaking off the top of my head, the Republicans I'm closest with are, for the most part, lawyers. And look, of the lawyers, a lot of them who vote the most hardcore right, they're not. Like, I'll talk to them about some of this, and that's disappointing when someone's smart and they're like, yeah, I got to vote this way. I'm like, you are one of the smartest people in here, for real, as a lawyer, and you're doing this. And also, it's that there's respect there on both sides, and this is kind of like our job too. So.
This also means that you're often leading me astray in terms of telling me people who are reasonable, and then like, I try to talk to them or try to get somebody else to talk to them, and it's like useless, and they never ever ever vote the right way. I do take that seriously. At least it's like some indicator that this person like is smart.
Well,
is not a full-blown asshole because they'll talk to you.
Kind of.
And that's pretty much it. I'm looking at that. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody.
I'm a novelty. There's people who be like, I'm bipartisan. I'm friends with Mandie. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah. You're their
Thanks.
token. You're their token.
Token. I'm the token.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the DEI bill or?
Yeah. It's Juneteenth. Sure.
That's true.
So speaking of not really having a lot of respect for your colleagues, this is a bill that we have not really talked about on the podcast all this session, not because it isn't important, but mostly just because we were focused on lots of other bills. So this bill was brought by Chenevert,
also the author of the bill, to try to strip all minors of their autonomy in terms of ability to access healthcare.
Right.
She's had a lot of bad bills in 2 years, insurance bills, all kinds of stuff. Comparative fault.
She's pretty awful.
Doesn't know what that is, but she passed it.
Yeah.
I won't get
into I'm going to play
conspiracy theories on some of this. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to play her introducing the bill.
This bill is to prohibit the use and promotion of DEI initiatives within Louisiana state agencies and mandated course in the public post-secondary institution. That is one thing about this bill, is making sure that in Louisiana we are following federal law and we do not have any issues as it pertains to that with the federal government. And this is part of the governor's package on bills, and we just have to make sure that we are following federal law because we know that federal dollars are attached to that. This is continuing the opportunity of free speech and continuing the discussions around a lot of things across the world, the globe. We are not prohibiting that in any manner in this bill.
Words.
Well, so when I haven't
whole
really
thing
watched
was like,
anything
we have to be in compliance with federal law. This is federal law. We need to be in compliance with federal law. And it's like, an executive order is not federal law. I mean,
that was my pre-session analysis, was like, why is she doing this? This is just so obviously like, I want to like make a name for myself on this hot topic issue, because the federal government is currently absolutely decimating DEI. Like, there ain't nothing that any state needs to be.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. We already have federal law. We don't need to do it.
Yeah, and they're like, I mean, no need to worry, Rep. Chenevert. They are decimating DEI. There's an article on a newsletter that I got that says like, what's replacing DEI? ? Racism. It's like, yeah.
It's just an excuse to just remind people like, hey, we're still openly racist, and we can be.
That's right.
Forget none of this F your feelings. We're really saying F your feelings. We are allowed to do this. Like, their use of the word retard, like that it's a badge of honor. We're taking it back. We can use it. I'm like, you're just an asshole.
The DEI crap is just like, it's pandering to the right. It's pandering to Governor Landry. It's pandering to Trump, being like, we can be as racist as we want. The federal government is already taking care of all of these really bad things at this point. And I don't know. It's just, the whole thing is so disgusting to me. And like, who is against diversity, equity, inclusion? Like, those are things that are hard to be against. you're an asshole if you're against equity and inclusion. Like idiot MAGA folks are just like, yeah, DEI is ruining everything.
Know what it
like,
is.
Do you know what it is? Yeah.
They don't
like,
know
do you
what
even know what
is.
it stands for, let alone like what it means?
Well, so that was the thing that was kind of making me so insane about the way that this bill was presented on the floor, but also in committee, is that, and I have to give it to Chenevert, like she stuck to her talking points for the most part. Like she
was
really
in
did not.
the
She
film
didn't really
industry.
understand what the bill was doing, but she had her talking points about what we needed to do. We needed to comply with federal law, and that's why we needed this bill. And she just kept saying that over and over again. But she could never explain, even though she was questioned several times, like, what exactly do you think DEI is? DEI related topics, DEI related courses. She never really could articulate exactly what she thought that was.
She couldn't. She just kept saying like everyone should be equal and we should treat everyone fairly and no one should be treated differently. But she wasn't talking about Black and brown people. She was talking about white people. And then Denise Marcel, champion of the session, she pushed her like 3 times. She's like, do you know that white women are the biggest beneficiaries of DEI? I was like, do you want me to go to the floor and say that? Because I know that and that's true. And I can like try to shame some people. And she's like, don't worry about it. But she never wouldn't respond. I think showing she didn't understand what she was talking about, that women were are considered minority group for contracts and whatnot, and that it's us who benefits. She didn't get it.
Yeah, some of the shit that I didn't even know until the Trump administration was dismantling it. Veterans getting jobs, like people with like
disabilities.
Yes, I mean, like the equity and inclusion part is broad, and the diversity part, if you're a good person, you would support anyway. They just want to focus on white people are being discriminated against, which is absurd.
Well, they all think like their kid should have gotten into Harvard and they didn't because some Black kid or some Asian kid did. And I'm like, no, they probably just weren't interesting. Or guess what? There's 1,000 or 5,000 kids with perfect SAT scores and they have to somehow choose some. And that's not like reverse racism or prejudice even. It's called like leveling the playing field.
Yep. That's the kind of bullshit with the like reverse racism stuff. But as we've been saying, I mean, all DEI in terms of like employment practices or government contracts or policies in the workplace, whatever, is broad and good for everybody.
I have some of Marcel because she really kind of rocked.
She was so awesome this year, more than before even. She was on point.
Are you aware that under the DEI program, more white women have benefited than anyone else?
My big concern with DEI, that it has hurt more female athletes across this country than it has helped because of the word inclusion. And I believe in that, but because of some others' definition of it, we have biological men that have taken the positions of biological women. And so my pushback to that would be, I don't think it's helped us as much as what maybe you're referring to, especially in modern times.
I mean, I have to say that's kind of genius on her part. She's like, I need to switch to like a totally different, unrelated topic that like is also controversial. Any sort of like transgender athletes in sport, there's lots of other laws that do and do not apply to that. Like it's whether
that's bad inclusion.
Like is
it hurts white women in her mind. It's bad inclusion. See, they're victims too. Yeah. That's why I don't question as much anymore. Y'all have been watching me for 6 years now. I don't question as much. If I have something to say, I go to the floor. It's like, what's the point? You're not getting anything out of them.
She only took a couple of questions, and then Representative Villio walks over to her at some point and whispers in her ear and then stands next to her and then she turns around and waves questions.
That's like pretty typical with like these folks that get in way over their heads. It obviously depends on the author, or the person presenting the bill, and it depends on the issue. I do appreciate from your perspective that like it's just like we need to get the message out. You need to get the message out. Maybe that can be done more effectively by just like going to the floor to speak. But like people do say a lot of nutball shit when you guys question them that actually is helpful both for the public and for doing disservice to themselves. The thing that's frustrating to me, and I think is probably part of what you mean, is that there's just an increase. It's sort of like we were talking about with like the Pete Hegseth of the world. There's just an increasingness around there. Increasingness, maybe not a word, but yeah, an increase in people like just not either just straight up lying or just not answering the question. I think that's just getting worse and worse, that people are not actually engaging
because there's
in.
there's no repercussions. I mean, there's no accountability. There's nobody's
There's also no
responsible.
incentive, because there's a super majority of Republicans in both chambers now. So they can basically just bullshit their way or lie their way through it. You used to see at least that people would really defend their bill, even if it was batshit crazy and or controversial, but they would engage.
Who will, but for the most part, the troublesome bills can't answer, won't answer. The won't answer is more frustrating to me because everyone knows what they're doing and going round and round. And I'm trying to make a point and set a record. And I get real angry at them. It's the women more so, not ironically, who do that. And then the ones who can't, I just kind of like give up. I'm like, bless your little heart. You don't know what you just don't know.
The question and answer part can be fertile ground, even if if that's when they are not answering the question or bullshitting, because
if for no
that's
other
also
reason,
clear to people.
If for no other reason, it gives us stuff that we can play on the podcast and then post on social media.
True.
So
That's
like
true.
Matt asking if the chemtrails were UFOs. Oh my God. Only man I know who could have asked those questions with a straight face.
It was great.
It was amazing.
Are you sure they're not like UFOs?
Yeah. Oh my God. Because Genevieve waived questions, the Legislative Black Caucus went to the floor, and it was really powerful.
Members, this is the most racially offensive piece of legislation that I think I've had to debate since I got in office. We wouldn't have to tiptoe around white fragility and white guilt if more people would not continue to create policies and environments where schools and workplaces are divided, where people do not have equitable access to opportunity, and people are hindered from having freedom of speech, religion, and assembly. Creating access to opportunities which support individual success for Black people and women does not take away opportunities for straight white men. What about my Black fragility and my Black fatigue? I just want to be Black in peace. DEI is not a handout. It is a policy created to open opportunities for those of us who are qualified, but not offered those opportunities simply because of the color of our skin.
Why are we trying to eliminate a program called diversity, equity, and inclusion? Apparently, Representative does not know why it was created in the first place. If we had equal opportunity to be at the table, there would be no need to create the program. In this very bill, it talks about white fragility. And what does that mean? If somebody is uncomfortable, that means that there is a problem with it. I'm uncomfortable. I've been uncomfortable. Black folks been uncomfortable.
How we got here? How did we get to this point? We got here because of racism, people being denied opportunities. Now, they keep talking about what the court said. The federal court, Supreme Court, only said that race should not be the sole factor in selecting a student at Harvard University. But they didn't say anything about the stuff this bill says.
This is about race. That's all. We're not on a track meet. This is about race. That's what we're dealing with. You've got 4.6 million people in our state, and we're losing them with 1.6 African Americans. You can't attack this group and think it's going to be okay. That's not going to happen. We want to be a part of this state, and we want to be involved, but this divisive legislation doesn't help us.
People who
our DEI have served this state on merit and not mediocrity. When we celebrate and have events for Women's Month, HBCU Day, Veterans Day, Farmers and Growers Day, all here at this Capitol, we are celebrating DEI. We are celebrating the legacy of recent accomplishments of those groups. Should we dismantle the Women's Caucus because the men of this legislature aren't allowed to join the caucus based on gender?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion members are not threats at all. What those terms mean to me and the people who sent me here to voice for them, they are the promise of equal access to opportunity.
The narrative that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion is divisive and unnecessary is false. DEI reflects our shared commitment in fairness and opportunity for all. Historically, women who have gained leadership, education, and income benefit from DEI. This bill narrows opportunity and misrepresents inclusion.
This bill is so unnecessarily divisive.
It's not just that it's divisive, it's that it's offensive. We always play by the rules that someone else has developed. And when there's just a perception, not a real win, but when there's a perception of us winning by others, then there's a need to change the rules. How can you ever get ahead when the rules are always changed?
In an extraordinary moment of just really not being able to fucking read the room was Representative Mandie, who had to come and try to get the last word on the floor. Do you remember this, Mandie, or no?
Oh,
Yeah.
please play it.
Yeah,
She
I'm gonna
believes
play
that
it.
though. At least she is genuine though. She believes it. Some of them are not, you know.
But like,
but I know.
Play it. I already know what we're talking about. Play
okay,
it.
all right, I'll play it. This clip is just called White People.
Felt compelled to come and say just a couple of words here. There are things that I see in this bill to something that would be prohibited. Requiring or soliciting an applicant, employee, or student to provide a written or oral statement regarding DEI should be prohibited. That's compelled speech. Extending any preferential treatment based on race, color, ethnicity, sex, national origin, gender identity, or sexual orientation in the making of decisions at public post-secondary education institutions on admission, state-supported financial aid, scholarships, or other services or benefits. This would be a good thing if you believe that scholarship should be based on merit or financial scholarship should be based on financial need. That's what I think it should be based on. Equity is a Marxist term. It's an attempt to have the government force equal outcomes. Diversity. I keep hearing diversity is what makes us strong. It's not. What about our diversity? Well, here's a truth we need to come together around. There's only one race, and it's human.
I can't anymore. Just felt
Good
like
one. That's good.
after devastating floor speeches by the Legislative Black Caucus, little mousy McMuffin had to like trot her little ass up there and talk about Marxism. I mean, what the fuck?
Well, plus the
Seriously.
first part that she said about not discriminating in terms of like hiring scholarships, admission, that's the law. Like that's already the law. But like I really did like the Marxism part.
Well, Chuck Owen said.
Did he say something? He's also a nut. So
he put racism in. No, he put the bill in AI or Chat GPT. I forgot what he said, and asked if it was racist, and it's not.
I dropped this bill into my artificial intelligence machine. I said, "Is this bill inherently racist?" And here's what the computer said back to me. It said, "This bill does not contain anything overtly racist."
Yeah, these people are unbelievable. Do we want to play Chenever's sobbing close?
I'm not afraid to have tears because I'm a very passionate person about my God and how he sees us. Bill's about legislation in our state. And it's about equality for all. I am so grateful for what I heard today. I know that must sound weird. I'm grateful to hear the heart of my colleagues. And sometimes you wonder, is it needed? And I'm here to say, I think it is needed. Why does it matter that we make sure that little boys and girls sit in classrooms and aren't forced to be told that maybe, just maybe, the color of your skin, maybe it's the reason it could be a problem with you, either color. So people may think I'm crazy. They may think, why in the world would you do this? Why do you talk about these things? Because it matters to the heart of God. And I understand we may have a different perspective, but mine is a biblical perspective.
Everyone knows the Bible is racist. I mean, what is this?
Well, that's the only book that you
I mean, the
should
Bible was
believe.
used,
That's the
has
only
been
book that
used
you-
to subjugate people, but, you know, I'm not really sure how that's relevant.
But being up there has actually made me realize how much, as a lifelong Catholic, I have more in common with my Jewish friends than Christian, Baptist, fundamentalists, all this. I think it's because, like, it's a sense of more like history, community, and also
Social
basis of,
justice.
well, my Catholicism is don't judge people, help poor people. My Jewish friends are all like, we're here for the betterment of society. And then going up there, people whose religion is a very harsh God, and one who says you're going to hell unless you follow all the rules, and you still might go to hell. And they bring up Jesus a lot, which like the Catholics don't do. Like, we do our sign of the cross and that's it. And that's been jarring, and that influences their politics, of course, because that like colors everything. Whereas I feel like Jewish people and Catholic people, it's like life lessons we learned, like how to be in a community, not how to make sure you don't go to hell.
These are the
Cafeteria
same people
Catholics.
that when I was growing up in Monroe, you know, they're going to the
What
same
about
churches
that?
as the kids that would walk up to me and tell me that I was going to hell because I was Jewish.
It's just sort of genius in like obfuscation. Just
Right.
like
That's the
throw this out
responsibility.
there, throw something out there that like is like the people on my side are going to be like, that's right. And the people on their side are going to be like, oh my God. And then it will stop the conversation.
Well, it's ignoring your responsibility, saying someone told you to do it, just following orders. Like, y'all are going to go to hell. That's what I was told. And that's gross.
That bill
So the
died in the
bill-
Senate, right?
So the bill passed the House
Yeah, obviously.
and it never was scheduled for a hearing in the Senate.
Cameron Henry, who doesn't like
stopped it.
any of this shit, but tolerates it, didn't refer it to committee in the Senate because the senators are like, no,
Please don't do
not
this to
dealing with
us.
this. It was pretty awesome. It was
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
All right, well, let's move on to something a little bit lighter. Our listeners may remember at the very beginning of the session, we talked about how in redneck places like Louisiana, there's always some real gems of random bills that get introduced because they are impacting some very small, interesting constituency in the state of Louisiana. And so
Some fishers
this-
and hunters of some sort.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we talked about the bill that was introduced by Senator Lambert that would change the law so that you could carry a gun while you were frogging at night. And we, you know, when this bill came up in committee, there was some good back and forth. So I just want to play a little of that.
By
for
the way,
y'all.
he's lovely.
He's
I
very
kind
sweet.
of consider him a mentor a
Everyone
little bit.
Everyone that you will hear seems like you would want to go frogging with them.
It's always a pleasure to be here. It's where I started in natural resources as one of my favorite committees. And catching frogs is one of my favorite activities. But anyway, this is a bill that under current law, no person shall carry or have in possession any shotgun, rifle, or firearm while taking or hunting frogs during the nighttime. And a couple of years ago, we had a constitutional amendment that gave the high preference to being able to carry a firearm in different places and doing different things. This could be subject to a constitutional challenge because of the right to carry arms.
I remember going frogging with my dad, so I appreciate this.
I've got a question. Can you use the forks to catch frogs now?
Some people do, I don't.
Certain connoisseurs don't.
Yes, I'm not stabbing one. I catch them with my hand or net.
If there's any time you need to have a gun, is when you're frogging snakes, whatever. But thank you. That's a good bill.
My departed father-in-law had like a big fly swatter with a rubber thing. Is that just to stun them or something like that?
That would be yes. I guess it'd stun them, yeah. I mean, you could hit them with a boat paddle or something, but I mean, real people catch them with their hands.
And it's still good to have a sidearm or some kind of firearm in the vessel. You never know what you may come across.
Well, you know, another thing is a lot of times you're coming back to a landing at night, nobody's around, and you never know if you're going to be accosted.
This is good because there was a question, Michelle, you and I had that were like, are they going to shoot frogs? And I was like, I think it's probably about you just might like encounter somebody for self-defense. It is kind of hilarious that maybe there's been like some areas of like rural hunting and fishing life where you weren't allowed to bring a gun, but the Blake Miguez's of the world, to bring it back, are trying to also make sure that they can be carried in urban settings, in crowded urban settings. Why not be able to bring a gun with you on your boat when you're out frogging if you can bring a gun everywhere fucking else? Yeah. I don't have a gun. I'm very anti-gun, but you know what I mean? Like, the equal protection. And now that I know, also, I would have a question for him if he's doing catch and release, because I, as a vegetarian,
Good question.
I would only be a catch and releaser. But like fishing, I won't even do that. You're really hurting the fish. But like the catching, like we used to catch frogs all the time as a kid. I love catching frogs, not on a boat with a gun, but so if he's doing catch and release, then yeah, maybe that's how I'll make friends with Senator Lambert.
So you're not going out with Ogeron's granddaddy who just whack him over the head with a paddle or something? Well, let's so we've got another little treat for you, Mandie. This is a Representative Amity who, as we already talked about, needed to have the last word or one of the last words on the DEI bill. She is very crazy and is a super anti-vax representative. And to give her credit, she has been very, very critical to supporting and expanding French education in the state of Louisiana. And for that, I want to thank her because my daughter is in a French immersion school. And so she's a good example of how, like, you know, you may not ever want to work with these people on anything, but a lot of them are at some point doing something that you can support.
She's very prepared on the floor, you know. Clearly she's talked to people. Like, I don't necessarily agree most of the time with even the point she's trying to make, although sometimes she's actually making a point that I agree with. So many of those motherfuckers are unprepared, are uninformed. So I almost never agree with her, but I do appreciate that she's taking her job seriously and she's trying to learn about, you know, the bills, even if, again, like, you know, usually her takeaway is really different than mine.
She prepares. She really does.
Yeah. And I understand. I mean, you guys have, you know, there's hundreds and hundreds of bills. You can't be prepared for all of them. So I do have that nice thing to say about Amity, but she is nuts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's listen to Representative Amity.
A headline from fall of 2020 reads, "Scientists are working on vaccines that spread like a disease. What could possibly go wrong?" And on this side of the pandemic, that's a good question. What we're talking about is what's currently being developed over these last many years. It could be aerosolized to where they could put a vaccination into the AC system in a building, for example. It could be placed in municipal water systems for a whole community. So this is the kind of thing that this bill focuses on. We should not be fearful of walking into a public building and breathing the air because somebody may have intentionally put something in the AC system. Or we shouldn't be fearful of sitting down to eat dinner because somebody would have intentionally put some self-spreading, self-replicating pathogen in the food.
I'm reporting.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Vice Chair Amity, for bringing the bill and bringing awareness. Ms. Hines, I appreciate you. Can you compare this to bio warfare? I don't know if I'm saying that right. So, because I know that that's what China's working towards. We all know that.
Yes, I'm Jill Hines. I'm co-director of Health Freedom Louisiana. We're a consumer and human rights advocacy organization. And I just have to say, after hearing the red cards, it's kind of concerning that people are opposed to the idea of criminalizing the technology of self-spreading pathogens.
Ms. Hines, let me ask you something. So my wife's a nurse. I have close relatives as a PA. I got close relatives that's a doctor. What is your medical background?
I have no medical background. I'm a mom.
Who are the people that are going to be doing this, that are going to be like putting the vaccines in the water system or the
government, Joe
and
Biden's
then
government.
and then I guess we can send them to jail.
Joe Biden's government's doing it. They're obsessed. I'm like, he's no longer the president. Like, you won. He's gone. He's not evil. He was old.
I'm always sort of fascinated with this Amity crap, though, too, that it's like, I guess if the government was doing it, which again,
I mean,
I don't know how
who
we're
else would
gonna.
be doing it?
That's my point. Is like a lot of I'm like, this would be an expensive project that probably like for limited gain. Who is going to be doing that?
And where and why? Especially
Correct.
vaccines. Like, if you're a terrorist, you're like putting stuff in water that will like kill massive amounts of people. If you put a vaccine that's not, I mean, they think they're dangerous, but that doesn't make sense.
I think I know what you're trying to do, and I think I'm good. But let me tell you where the problem is. You testified, Ms. Hines, that COVID was an engineered virus.
I don't know what it is.
So if it is, COVID-19 is an engineered virus, which could be argued it is. We know it's capable of spreading from person to person. Anyone that walks into this room with COVID could be interpreted as intentionally exposing everyone in this room, whether they're doing it to expose or they unintentionally but intentionally come into this room, then they're exposing all of us to COVID, which may be an engineered virus and certainly is capable of spreading from person to person. Do you get where I'm going? If I walk in here with COVID, I am intentionally walking into this room full of people and exposing them to the COVID that I have. Now I can be fined and imprisoned at hard labor.
Like he himself, of course, has like known that he had COVID and went into a room and didn't tell anybody and, like probably coughed on somebody. I'm probably not going to give somebody HIV, but like I'm probably going to give somebody COVID every session and know that I was likely to do that.
They're insane.
Well,
Tony's another one. Yeah. Tony's another one that like I know differently than people. Like I texted him yesterday about some of the healthcare Medicaid stuff. I ask him budget stuff sometimes. He really knows the numbers, hates nursing homes, but also thinks we spend too much money on Medicaid and other stuff. But then he does stuff in committee sometimes. I'm like, Tony, come on, man. I like, what are you doing? The stuff you say sometimes makes me crazy because I like him.
I mean, I'll tell y'all a little story.
This is a good story.
We had some people from some of the national reproductive rights organizations, the Center for Reproductive Rights, Physicians for Human Rights, and then Reproductive Health Impact that were in town because we were briefing the legislators on the report that we had done on the impact of the abortion bans on pregnancy in Louisiana. I had brought them up to the rotunda and was just showing them around, and Representative Bacala was up there. I don't know what he was doing up there, but he came up, said, hi, where are y'all from? And was just super jovial. And then I said, well, I'm just taking them on a tour around. And he was like, oh, well, let me take you. And so he shepherded us around the rotunda and he, showed them the bullet holes where, Huey P. Long was shot and, pointed out all this stuff that I didn't even actually know about the Capitol, the pencil that's lodged in the ceiling.
I don't know where it is. I know it's there.
Yeah. Anyway, he was so nice. So when we walked away, they were like, oh, he was so nice. And I was like, he is a anti-abortion nightmare on the Criminal Justice Committee. So this is the South.
Exactly, that's right. But back to the Amity stuff, she is definitely in the camp of people who is bringing stuff that is too crazy, that like does not even get out of that fucking batshit crazy committee. I don't really remember ever hearing Bacala not want to criminalize something. That's like not his jam. Again, I bet this hit close to home a little bit. I might get caught up in the dragnet of the self-propelling pathogen. Undisclosed or whatever.
Did they vote?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Voted.
Did she?
They didn't make it out.
That's uncommon.
I mean, the thing is like if she's talking about like bioterrorism,
That's a
federal
crime.
laws for that. Yeah. I think anytime you see that Jill woman from, who's just the mom,
She's crazy.
yeah. I mean, if she's showing up in support of a bill, then that bill is fucking crazy.
Like, I want to actually talk about the issues, as you guys know, like, but just sort of like, this gives me another time to say the exact same thing that I already said that is not responsive to what you said. I don't have time for that shit, man.
I wish we could discuss more policy and not just like know how a vote's gonna go. And it's just like it's very, very frustrating.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
The STD bill. I was so surprised what happened with that. Because Michelle and I had talked about it, and I was basically like, if my ex-boyfriend X gave me herpes, I would want him to sit in jail for a while. And Michelle's like, what? And I'm like, yes, for a long time.
I was so upset after that conversation.
Oh my God. All of them.
But that's again not for public. That's not good public policy, and certainly like overnight or for like a couple nights. I'm with you on that. I would like a little. Yeah, like
I trusted this person, and he gave me like a lifetime disease. I think that's bad. Beryl would agree. I was just planning to like maybe ask a few questions, a few of us were, about public health. Just to let people know this goes beyond this issue. And probably not vote. And then Jason Hughes comes out like swinging, kind of pushed Miss Pat down a little. Speaking of changing strategy / being in the right place at the right time, I had asked a couple of the governor's staffers who I kind of knew at the time to meet with them. This was way before Mardi Gras because he vetoed 200 bills last year. And they were both for political reasons that were not related to me. Like, I did not take it personally, but I was still like pissed about it. They were good. Sure. These were good bills about campaign stuff. So I go meet with them and I go through ideas, and some of it they're like, yeah, cool. And some of it they're like, no. And then we got to victim notification. I was like, look, I've been looking at this for like 2 years. We keep talking about it. I don't understand how this is not a fixed thing. It's not hard. We have technology. It's our responsibility as a state to tell a victim, witness, whatever was going on. And so they wanted to do it, and they went and kind of like looked and did their research, and they found some money that they had been talking about doing this to create like a portal for like victims, witnesses, families, like anyone related, that each court has to have their like system open, that everything gets uploaded. We added comments about escapees, and it's like a pretty big thing. It's one of the bigger Democratic bills, and it's not bipartisan, it's nonpartisan. And I kind of got lucky. Like I went, but make your own luck. Like I went meet with them. I had a list. I gave them like 3 pages of things I was thinking about.
And they're like, trash.
And they're like, trash. We want to do this too. Oh, and look, we coordinated with Representative Landry, the Democrat, on a bill. Look at how open-minded we are. I'm like, that's fine. Use my name.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever. The good Landry and the bad Landry working together, right? I think that's genius. There are not going to be a ton of things that you or I or people on our side have crossover appeal on. But like, you're a very smart, logical person, and there are millions of problems out there in the world. If you can find that kind of stuff, and also again, just to like prove to people in the current governor's office who would think that they don't have anything in common with you, that's not true. And so getting somebody to like see you in like a little bit of a different frame, I think is useful for credibility purposes, and obviously for you for maybe just getting some shit done.
Well, and the speaking out has gained me a lot of respect. A lot of the like men comments like, well, I don't ever agree with you, but like I respect that you're prepared and ready. I'm like, well, thanks. I don't respect it. Like, people are watching. Yeah. Weird. I don't watch any other movies.
We've got and we are forcing our listeners to pay attention. Mandie, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And just a reminder for our listeners, we are going on break. We are not going to be releasing new episodes of the podcast for the month of July, but we will be back in August.
In the meantime, you need to listen, tell all your friends, and rate, review, and subscribe.
Seriously is presented by Lift Louisiana, a nonprofit organization advocating for reproductive health rights and justice.